In 1998, the International Institute of Boston, IIB, moved its offices from Commonwealth Ave to 1 Milk Street in Boston's financial district. Uniquely open to the public and in a larger space, the new office offered more rooms for classrooms, a new computer lab, and even a museum in its basement called Dreams of Freedom, Boston's Immigration Museum. Building on the legacy of the New England Folk Festival, the museum offered interactive exhibits showcasing photographs, artifacts, and personal stories to offer glimpses into the lives of the refugees and immigrants who had come to Boston over the years. The museum also hosted lectures, workshops, and community discussions on issues such as immigration laws, integration, and addressing discrimination. In the early 2000s, this space was one of several hosts throughout the city for screenings by the Human Rights Watch Film Festival, of which IIB was a sponsor. 1 Milk Street also quickly became the home of several new programs. A $1 million grant from the Boston Foundation and a partnership with Hilton Hotels helped launch a skills training program to place more than 260 newcomers into jobs at Boston hotels. A federally funded Saving for Success program not only taught financial literacy, banking, and money management skills, but also helped students set up savings accounts and set savings goals for a major purchase, and then provided matching funds once the goals had been achieved. A new class in Home Buying 101 was offered first in Vietnamese and Haitian Creole, and then later in Chinese and Cape Verdean Creole. A new citizenship center provided refugees and immigrants with citizenship examination preparation and other naturalization services. IIB also launched an International Survivors Center to provide case management and counseling services to survivors of torture and other war-related traumas, and also secured its first contract from the U.S. Department of Justice to serve victims of human trafficking, providing mental health services, housing, and legal assistance for survivors, and creating training programs for a network of law enforcement officers to identify and serve survivors. At the end of the 90s, a crisis erupted in Eastern Europe's Balkan Peninsula. Ethnic conflict had been violently tearing apart the country formerly known as Yugoslavia for several years. And in 1999, NATO intervened, bombing government forces and temporarily seizing control of the flashpoint region of Kosovo. In the mass displacement that followed, refugees from regions on multiple sides of the conflict were resettled in Boston. Many were ethnic Albanians from Kosovo, eager to join an already sizable community of Albanian Bostonians whom IIB had served over the years. As they welcomed these new refugees, IIB was particularly mindful of the many children arriving and organized a Kosovo Kids Summer program in the Boston suburb of Lynn to help them prepare for attending local public schools in the fall. In the same period, IIB also welcomed 75 of the so-called Lost Boys of Sudan, a group of teenage refugees from the Dinka tribe of South Sudan who had been captured as young children and forced to serve as soldiers in the Northern Sudanese army. Many had fled first to Ethiopia and then a second time to Kenya, where they endured brutal treatment and extended confinement in the Kakuma refugee camp. In the early 2000s, escalation of violence in the Sudan Civil War had brought renewed attention to the plight of the Lost Boys, and thousands were welcomed into the U.S. IIB provided them with English language classes and case management services. Some used the new computer lab in IIB's Milk Street office to search for their lost family members. Then, public sentiment towards refugees dramatically shifted in the wake of the events of 9/11. A mood of fear, division, and prejudice reverberated across the U.S., including in Boston. Many Muslim and Arab Americans became the targets of violence, threats, and prejudice. IIB sprang into action to mobilize a local response, organizing a meeting of leaders from Boston's Afghan community to issue a press release about the crisis, arranging a meeting between Boston's Arab American leaders and the hate crime unit of the Boston Police Department, and developing a community resource guide for Boston's Muslim community. IIB also partnered with the organization Muslim Community Support Services of Massachusetts to provide counseling to immigrants confronting trauma and feeling unsafe in their communities. Continued war in Afghanistan and expanded military operations in Iraq created mass displacements, but the U.S. had become less welcoming. Refugee admissions in the US had dropped from 70,000 in 2001 to about 27,000 in 2002, and vetting of refugees from Arab and Muslim countries was becoming increasingly restrictive. Still, as the first Afghan and Iraqi refugees from these wars began to arrive in Boston, IB was there to welcome them into services and proudly help them become Bostonians. Many of the programs first established at the International Institute of Boston in the 90s and early 2000s continue to thrive and evolve at the International Institute of New England. Our Ready Set Service program helps new arrivals to Boston get placed in today's local hotel jobs. Saving for Success has become the individual development account program and is still helping refugees and immigrants to purchase their first cars and homes here. INE continues to provide programs specifically for victims of torture, and our Trafficking Victim Assistance Program, TVAP, helps hundreds each year to recover and make a new start. INE continues to stand strongly with all victims of discrimination and to connect them to the community resources they need to feel welcome, safe, and supported.